Is that you, Julie? Is that you? Julie? Where'd you go? Come back. Oh, Carolyn. See if anybody shows up. I got you. I got one captive audience. Oh. What? No, stop. What? What? Oh, Angie? You too. You're here too. Who else is gonna come? Who else? Can you see the doll right there? I shut the fan off just so you guys could hear better. And you can hear crickets. They'll get louder soon. Okay, so we're going to get started. Alrighty? Sit back, relax. No, what, Carolyn? What are you saying no for? What is this no? You're not ready? Angie, you're ready, right? Right, Angie? Yeah, there's the doll right there. She's on the chair. If you make your eyes look. Look, look, look. Okay. All right, here we go then. I got my phone ready. This is Dave's phone right here. Hey, who else is here? Somebody else came. Let's see. Oh, sure am. Okay. We got Angie and we got Mama Ramblins. And, okay. We're going to put the phone right here. Lean it up. There we go. See? Can you make it through there? Can you see it? There we go. I have this phone stuck in a cup. Okay? We have our nice little reading nook here. Okay? Let's get started. This is called Too Close to the Edge. Okay? Okay. We have our reading nook. This is our own private little group. Too Close to the Edge. This is by Catherine Meyer Griffith. No, Jeff, I can't. I can't come any closer. I did not stop it. No, it has, my phone is lit up. It's on my phone, Carolyn. See? Hey, Captain Lee. Hey, Captain Lee. 8 days, 7 days now, right? I believe. 7 days you'll be on that boat. Okay, now I can't be disturbed. I can't be, because I am at work now, ladies and gents. Okay, here we go. Danielle, this is called Too Close to the Edge. It's a ghost story. I actually previewed it myself last night. That's not too bad. It'll be just one story because it's kind of long. It's a long, short story. Hey, Nicole. Okay, no, Jeff, I can't. I can't come any closer. Please, don't make me. I was cringing back, trembling, about 10 feet from the south rim of the Grand Canyon, clinging to a scrawny tree as if it were my best friend. There was a June sun blazing down on me from a pure blue sky, not a cloud in sight, no shade, about 90 degrees, but it felt like 100. And let me tell you what, guys, everything it mentions in here, Dave and I were there, okay? Ah, Penelope, you gotta see this. It's breathtaking, like one of those 3D images, but so much better. My husband was snapping picture after picture, poised at the edge, in front of the rock. I just lost my place. Sorry, my phone had went dark. Poised at the edge in front of the rock ledge that snaked along the rim. A ledge no more than 3 feet high. It never stopped anyone from falling a mile to their death in the canyon. Nah, you go ahead and look at all you want, honey. I'll just stay here. I let my voice fall to a whisper, where it's safe. My eyes glanced here and there at all the people. There must have been hundreds milling around us, taking pictures like crazed paparazzi, oohing and ahhing, sidling way too close to the brink. There was a young man to my right who'd climbed over the small rock ledge and was posing not 2 feet from the drop-off for a photograph some girl was taking. He laughed and jumped straight up. Get me now. Look at me. Woo-hoo. I shut my eyes for a moment. I couldn't bear to look. He was going to fall. I didn't want that burnt into my retinas, his last death screams branded into my psyche for the rest of my life as he plummeted over the edge. There was a family passing in front of me, a smiling mother, father, 2 kids. The smallest, a dark-haired girl of around 6 or so, was dawdling behind. Now she was leaning over the rock rim, stomach balanced on it, legs straight up behind her, giggling and playing. No one was watching over her. Oh my God. Shuddering, I couldn't bear to look. I had to fight not to scream at her. Get away from the edge, child. What the heck was wrong with her parents anyway? They should be keeping an eye on her. She could fall so easily. There were so many of the visitors doing much the same thing, dangerously prancing around the rock ledges beyond the stone divider or sitting nonchalantly, legs crossed on the ledge as if, oh no, I won't fall, never lose my balance. Not me. Were they all nuts? Turning, I stomped across the asphalt walking path away from the offending sights into the stunted trees and dried up scrubs, wanting to be as far away from the rim as I could get. Between the heat and the tension of seeing people behave so recklessly, I was a nervous wreck. Nicole, are you paying attention? I'll be asking questions tomorrow. Hey, honey, don't leave the path, my husband yelled at me, his voice tinged with mild annoyance. There's scorpions and snakes out there. Yikes, this whole place was a death trap. Let me get a drink of my water. You guys are sitting in a cup. Do you know that? In a plastic cup. If it tips over, you'll know why, because it's not balanced too well. It's a plastic plastic glass. Okay, let's see. It's not clear either, but it's sticking out the top. Okay, let's see here now. Yikes, this whole place was a death trap. Oh, Captain Lee, too bad I don't have one on a cruise. Ooh, that wouldn't be good though, right? I reluctantly crossed over to the outside of the path. I wasn't as frightened of scorpions and snakes as I was of falling into the canyon, but I did as he asked anyway. He was worried about me. So sweet of him. Hurry up, Jeff. The train leaves in about 70 minutes, and if we miss it, we'll be stranded here for the night. Haven't you taken enough pictures? I'd lost count at about 200. Give me a few more minutes. There's a view over there I got to get a photo of. Someone cried out in the distance and my stomach clenched. A cold sweat had broken out over my body. My shirt was soaked. I waited by the tree, trying to calm my nerves. What was wrong with me? Truth was, I never knew I was afraid, terrified really, of heights until that trip to Yellowstone about 12 years ago. Oh, Dave and I have been there too, guys. It might, Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. You're back. Stay and listen, Nicole. You can fall asleep to it. But I am terrified, that is, driving up through the narrow, winding roads to Mammoth Hot Spring Terraces all those years ago. I got what could only be described as a full-fledged panic attack. I couldn't even look over to where the road dropped off. As far as I was concerned, into eternity. My husband had been driving, and we were slowly going up and up and up. I felt as if I were going to dwindle to nothing and blow away. Since then, I've discovered I can't go anywhere near the edge of a steep hill, an aurora, or a canyon, no matter how high a barrier it had around it. Anything higher than a 10-foot drop-off, and I freak. My husband makes fun of me. Good-naturedly, of course. He loves me. Always has, always will. Just doesn't understand my fear. Carolyn, is this you telling the story? What's the matter? He asked over his shoulder as he lined up another spectacular image in his camera's viewfinder. You afraid of falling or what? You won't, you know. Just walk up to the rail and hold on. Look down. I won't push you over, I promise. You're safe, I swear it. If only he knew. It isn't that I think I'm going to fall. It's that something primal and hungry gnaws at the pit of my stomach the minute I get near a cliff. I can't move forward, can't move at all. I can't even force myself to step up to the rail or fence or whatever is there between me and the chasm and glance down. And oh, I tried. I've never been a fraidy cat and am usually fearless in most other aspects of my life. I hate it that I'm afraid of something, anything, especially when it makes no sense. I'm not going to fall if I don't step over the edge. For a second, I wondered why I'd agreed to this trip. And then I remembered my sister, Miranda, and her husband had come over one night a few months ago, and she'd said, hey, in June, Paul and I are thinking of going to the Grand Canyon. We're getting this beautiful cabin up in the pines right outside of Williams, Arizona. And there's room for 8, easy, they say. You two want to go along? We've always talked of taking a trip together. We could split the expenses. Hi, Taco. My first thought was, yikes, the Grand Canyon. Isn't that just one huge hole in the ground? Really deep? I can't go there. Too scary. Then I'd stopped myself. What was I, a baby? Afraid of a hole in the ground? My sister, seeing my reluctance, had rattled on. Well, we won't just be going to see the Grand Canyon. A short drive outside of Williams are the Red Rocks of Sedona. They're supposed to be amazing, too. Oh, and they are, guys. We've been there. That was one of my favorite places, Sedona, Arizona. Massive rock formations, the color of Mars, in these weird shapes. They've already given names to, like the coffee pot, the cathedral, and Snoopy. And the town of Sedona, with its arts and crafts village, is a real tourist draw. You should like that, being an artist yourself. She glanced over at the oil painting of the misty galloping horses running along in front of a great canyon. I'd finished the picture the week before, and Jeff, my husband, had prematurely hung it over the stone fireplace. I hadn't been happy with it. It needed something I couldn't quite put my finger on yet, but he'd insisted. So there it hung, all the dull browns and flat, washed out colors of a desert, and the horses ghost-like. A setting sun in the background, lowering into sketchy mountains. Something missing still. It'll be so much fun, my sister coaxed. You guys got to come. I looked at my husband, whose nod told me he wanted to go, and smiled at her. Sure, we're in. It sounds lovely. When in June? When in June? The first week and a half. June 1st until June 12th. She turned to Jeff. Can you get those dates off? I'm sure I can. There's enough time to put in for them. Consider it done. He'd smiled, too, rubbing his hands together. Oh, boy, a new adventure. So the four of us planned. We made reservations at hotels, going out there, and I bought new clothes and a white purse. A white purse. I learned that the temperature in June on the south rim of the canyon could be in the high 80s, but that our cabin in Williams, being in a higher altitude, would always be cooler, especially at night, low 50s, just the way I liked it. I put my apprehensions about the canyon away. I'd be up there with millions of other people who go to see it every year. No problem. I'd just stay away from the edge. That's all, far away. Tell the crickets to keep it down. You said you liked them. I think they heard. Look, they quit. Listen. Oh, now here they go. It does, doesn't it, Jennifer? And Captain Lee, you don't have to pay attention because you're too excited about your trip. I don't blame you. Everybody else has to, though. The months went by quicker than a flying horse, and before I knew it, we were loading up our little 12-year-old Cavalier, and we were on our way, cruising along behind my sister and her husband's fancy new car. Them in the lead because they had one of those Garmin gadgets that could tell you where to go when you didn't have a clue. Good thing, because I had no sense of direction at all. Jeff was better at finding locations, but he seemed to be having fun, bantering back and forth with our little walkie-talkies between the cars, going here and going there. Lots of potty breaks. A few stops for food and gift shop perusing. I had to admit, so far it was fun. It was a long trip. The cabin, a sprawling wooden thing with a great room filled with windows looking out on a pine forest, had 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and was lovely. I can't believe when they said the cabin had everything we'd need, my sister murmured as we walked in and began looking around. I can't believe that it would have everything. Dishes, pots and pans, even a washer and dryer, detergent, trash liners too. It is real crickets, Captain Lee. Taco. And let's see. Wow, look at that great deck out there in the back. What a view. Isn't this something? And it was. Jeff and I would never have been able to afford such a swanky place on our own. Not to mention, I'd never have wanted to drive over 1,400 miles in our old Cavalier without another couple riding shotgun with us. The car was a good car, but it was old. I couldn't imagine breaking down in the middle of that endless expanse of desert-like scrubs, abandoned adobe huts, and wrecked cars that we'd passed by going through New Mexico. Vast, multicolored, and textured rock structures had hunkered around us. Dirt devils swirled off on the horizons and skimmed across the flatlands, keeping pace with us. Tumbleweeds bounced around like jumping beans. It was all so desolate. Picturesque, though. I took a few photographs along the way that I knew would make beautiful, eerie paintings. When we got home, I planned to paint them too. So we settled into the cabin. Miranda and Paul took the upstairs bedroom and bath, and Jeff and I claimed the downstairs one. King-size beds, plush, comfy. Hey, Ellen, scary crickets again. Okay, Danielle. Carolyn will be sleeping too, I'm sure, very quick. I felt like a queen living in a fancy house. We sat out behind the house that first night on the covered deck in the dark, breathed in the cool air, so full of the scent of pine needles, drank icy margaritas, and snacked on munchies. We laughed and played the next day. We laughed and planned the next day. We were booked on the Grand Canyon Railroad train that left Williams at 9:30 a.m. the following morning, and we were excited about it. 65 miles each way on the rails, with a 3-hour layover at the canyon's south rim and village so we could explore. An all-day trip. I'd never been on a train before, and I couldn't wait. Oh, I would love to do that. We didn't do a train when we were there. Let's see. Well, we're glad you're here, Taco. Let's see. The days started out perfect. We boarded with a gaggle of other tourists after the cheesy cowboy skit, complete with stilted dialogue and a couple of mangy horses propped up in front of a cardboard cutout old western town that we grinned at from wooden bleachers. I guess all in all, it wasn't too bad. Kind of cute, really. It got the crowd loosened up and ready for the journey to one of the 7th wonders of the world. Oh, I'd really wanted to be awed and amazed at the rim. I wanted to put all my fears aside and simply enjoy the experience. What was I thinking? Damn those silly, careless people capering around me and foolishly taking their lives into their hands. I wanted to leave now. I didn't want to see someone hurt themselves or, heaven forbid, fall to their deaths. Did not want to. Jeff, I yelled, we have less than an hour now before the train leaves. Come on, let's catch up with my sister and Paul and return to the station. Please? I'm coming. Just let me get this one last shot. I knew he didn't hear my sigh. He was too busy capturing the moment. I didn't notice the woman until she was standing beside me. Oh, let me get another sip here. Mary, are you here? Mary, Mary, Mary. Cross-eyed Betty, cross-eyed Betty, cross-eyed Betty. I see you're scared of the edge too. She was middle-aged, with short, blondish hair, a little frumpy, but she had a sympathetic smile and kind eyes. No hat or cap. Gecko. Okay, Captain. No shades. Her face was red from the sun. Her hand brushed my arm in what she must have thought was a gesture of support and sisterhood. I won't go near it neither. She shook her head. Can't make me. Her gaze went to a group of people on her left who were throwing pebbles over the rim. A gray-haired man waved at her, and she waved back. I really looked at her then, lifting up my head so my hat's brim lifted away from my eyes. She was older than I'd thought at first, wrinkles around her eyes and lips. She seemed sincere, so I replied truthfully, I can't go near it either. It gives me the willies, and the way people so nonchalantly sit on that ledge or scramble over the terraces beyond it. Even in the intense heat, I shivered. Gives you the willies? As well it should. Her voice took on a conspiratorial tone. Someone told me that a small girl, around 7 years old, fell to her death yesterday morning, right at this very spot. You're kidding, I gasped, and my hand covered my mouth, my eyes looking into hers to see if she was fooling with me. I could see she wasn't. Her face was perfectly serious. Her mouth had curved into a frown. Nope, right here. Her gaze swept the panorama in front of us. A rare breeze fluttered a strand of hair against her sad face. Yesterday. My heart speeded up. My stomach felt sick. I knew it. The canyon was dangerous, fatally dangerous. What happened? Do you know? I didn't really want the details, but I couldn't stop myself from asking. Curiosity had always been one of my weaknesses. The canyon had me under some sort of spell, and suddenly I felt strange, unreal. She shrugged. What usually happens? Our hostess on the train told us on the way up here her parents weren't watching her. She was playing around the ledge here by that tree, in fact, and she was leaning over it, kicked up her feet. Only a child, excited at where she was, having fun. The mother saw her go over, but was too far away to stop her. Just like that. She snapped her fingers in the air in front of my nose, and she was gone, just gone. Oh no, I muttered. That poor child, did she die? Of course. There are no terraces, no ledges on the other side of the wall here. She fell straight down, over 500 feet. And they say her tiny body bounced down even further. The search and rescue team found her broken and lifeless on a shelf 800 feet below us. Boy, this lady's really pleasant, isn't she? So I don't blame you or anyone for feeling scared up here. This place is haunted for sure. No way I'd be here after dark. So many people have died, falling off this canyon's rim, or below on the trails, or in the river. Down there, the high temperatures and dehydration gets them. Among the rock walls, it can get to 125 degrees in the heat of summer. Hi, cold case. They start out on a hike, lose their way, run out of water, and the heat kills them. The Colorado River that winds through the canyon down there, the rapids, takes people every year too. Oh my, was all I could think of to say. I didn't know that. I looked it up. I'm sort of a history buff. Hundreds of people have perished here since the canyon was discovered by Coronado's conquistadors in the 1600s. Adventurers, trappers, treasure hunters, hikers, and rafters, young, old, and in between. Some out of carelessness or just plain bad luck. Didn't matter. The canyon and its extremes killed them. Then in a soft voice, the woman said a strange thing. All those ghosts must be really restless when the sun goes down. So many people have died, you know. I didn't realize so many people have perished here. I hadn't thought about the fatalities that happened below the rim, only of the people who tumbled down from the top. That's awful. Sure is. She shook her head and moved away, her family drawing her from my side as they drifted down the path. I had to get away from there. I was too close to where the child had gone over. Tears for the lost girl and the others who'd perished over the centuries in the canyon were trickling down my face. My husband always said I was too sensitive. The artist in me, I guess. Jeff had wandered further along the rim, still oblivious to how little time we had left to return to the train depot. There was no one around me. I stood there, staring out into the canyon before me, my mind roiling with unwanted images of people expiring in one hideous way or another, below on the broiling rocks or drowning in the fast-moving rapids. The wind had picked up, and a sudden gust snatched the hat right off my head and sent it flying towards the rim. It bumped into the stone ledge and fell to the ground. I glanced around. Jeff was too far away. Sighing, I slowly crept towards the edge. Maybe I could just get down on my knees and crawl on all fours to the ledge like a crab, grab my hat, and scuttle back. The picture of me crawling around on the ground because I was a cowardly scaredy cat made me laugh. Come on, what was I so afraid of anyway? I wasn't going to do anything foolish, like balance precariously on the ledge on one foot, posing for photos, or go scrambling over it to lower terraces for a thrill. I wasn't that stupid. The wind, a cry in the ripping air, was a feral force now, and it felt as if it were pushing me towards the precipice. Go, pick up your hat, silly woman. Do it. Nothing will happen. You're safe. Don't look down. Only don't do a jig on top of the rocks. Somehow, on top of the rocks, one dragging step at a time, I inched towards my hat. 7 more feet. 3 more. 2. Somehow, I was bending over, stretching my fingers as far as they'd go to retrieve it, when I heard someone coming. I glanced over my shoulder, so careful not to look into the yawning abyss before me, and was surprised to see a small girl skipping towards me. She was alone, but was talking to someone as if she weren't. About 7 years old or so. She was tiny, with long blonde braided hair, and wearing pink shorts and a sleeveless black top, which with a picture of one of those Twilight couples on it. Her expression was melancholy. Yes, Daddy, I'll be careful. I'll only be a sec. I have to have that yellow flower I saw over here among the rocks, as a souvenir. Go ahead, I'll catch up. Taco. Hey, coffee and donuts. She kept coming, and suddenly she was behind me. With my hat in my hand, I stood up and moved quickly away from the rim, looking around for the child's parents. There was no one, that I could see anyway. When I was about 10 feet away, I turned to see the girl standing by the stone fence, gazing over into the canyon, a yellow flower clutched in her small hand. Isn't she a little too close to the edge, I thought? I was about to tell her so when she walked up to the stone wall and leaned over. Too far. Then she was on her stomach, leaning over the ledge, reaching for something. More flowers? And get another drink here, guys. Her feet left the ground, and her little body was balancing like a teeter-totter, completely horizontal. Ugh. Don't do that, I yelled at her in shock. You're going to fall. And with a surprised scream, she did just that. She fell down into the canyon, one moment there, and the next, gone. I think I screamed too, for help, and as hard as it was, I scrambled to the edge and forced myself to look over. Perhaps the child was on a rock outcropping or terrace below, not spiraling through the endless space to her death at all. There were no ledges or scraps of bush or trees she could have been caught on. Nothing that could have stopped her fall. There was no sign of her. I was hysterical, shouting for help as loud as I could, crying because I hadn't been able to save her. The horrifying image of the child going over the edge seared into my mind, and I knew I'd never get rid of it, ever. My eyes locked onto the inner canyon then, on the seemingly bottomless rocky pit, and in moments I was drenched in a cold sweat as a sudden dizziness hit me. My old friend, vertigo, some kind of inner ear problem I'd had on and off for the last couple of years since a bad ear infection, returned with a vengeance to torment me. Backing up slowly, the world began to spin, went black, and down I went. The next thing I knew, Jeff and a crowd of people were hovering over me, and I was, how did that happen? Sprawled unladylike on the ground in the dirt. Are you all right, honey? Penelope, Jeff was pleading, his eyes above me now, so full of concern. About time, I was in his arms, weeping like a frightened kid. Yeah, those crickets. Donuts. What'd you say about your ADD? It left. It'll come back up. I can't see the chat. The little girl, she was on the ledge. Then she wasn't. She fell. I saw her. Get help. Now. What little girl? My husband asked. I didn't see any little girl, and I was only down the path a bit. You were alone, honey. Are you sure you didn't imagine it? Now I was angry. No, I saw a little girl, and she fell over the edge here. She needs help. Alert the rangers. Call the park search and rescue teams out. Helicopters. She just fell. She could be down there somewhere. Hurt. Still alive. Get help now. There was a funny look on my husband's face. A crowd had gathered, all gawking at me and at the rim, ghoulishly interested. A few of them were peering over into the abyss, whispering among themselves. Oh, that's okay, coffee and donuts. They do get louder, don't they? Isn't that weird? If I cough, then they seem to stop. Well, they didn't that time, did they? I did that on purpose, and it didn't fool them. A few of them were peering over into the abyss, whispering among themselves, looking at me as if I were claiming aliens had landed. There was a tall, older-looking park ranger coming towards us. Ma'am, he inquired, kneeling down beside me, are you okay? He took my pulse and checked my eyes. She seems to be, Jeff said. She thought she saw something and fainted. My husband's eyes met the ranger's. She's petrified of the edge there. Gets kind of like panic attacks. Afraid of heights, you know? She probably thought she saw something, but didn't. An apologetic smile. No, I didn't imagine it. I saw a little girl go up to the ledge there and fall over, I tell you. Looked to be about 7 years old or so. Blonde hair. She's down there among the rocks somewhere. We have to get her help. She could still be alive. I didn't see anything, Jeff repeated. The ranger stood up and went to the overlook, shaking his head. I don't see anything down there, but I'm calling in a search team. If there's someone, we'll find them. It was over that quick, and my husband, my sister, crickets from space. My husband, my sister, and my brother-in-law were there, escorting me to the air-conditioned Bright Angel restaurant for a reviving drink. We've been there, the Bright Angel restaurant. We stayed at the Bright Angel Hotel, or motel, whatever it's called. I insisted on spending the night on the south rim at the lodge, even though we had a cabin waiting in Williams for us, hoping they'd find the child. We could catch the train the next day for Williams. They allowed you to do that. I couldn't leave. I didn't want to. The ranger promised he'd let me know as soon as anything was found out about the missing girl. I didn't know why, but I had to know what happened to her. I waited in my room at the lodge, dressed, sitting in a chair most of the night as Jeff slept in the bed. Every once in a while, I could hear the helicopters scouring the cliffs, hear shouts of the rescue teams as they made their way along the rim and below. I couldn't sleep. As the dawn grew near and the rising sun tinted the night skies a shade or two lighter, there was a knock on the door. It was the park ranger, hat in hand and with a perplexed expression on his face. We didn't find her, ma'am. Not yet, anyway. We're still looking. The sun will be up soon, and that should help. I asked him inside to sit a spell and have a cup of coffee. Look at the chat. You guys are always doing something funny. Let's see. He looked as if he needed it. His face was weary and his shoulders slumped. I noticed his hair was grayer than I remembered. Must be close to retirement age. Can I ask you another question or two? I thought he'd asked all he could have the day before, but nodded. Go ahead. You know we never found her parents. We looked and searched the lodges here, asked at the train depot in Williams, checked with the police in town and all abouts. No one was missing a child anywhere, not yesterday or today. I didn't know what he was getting at, but I sat quietly and waited. Again, exactly what did the girl look like? What was she wearing, doing, when you saw her go over? To the best of my memory, I repeated all I'd told him the day before, and more. I had remembered the yellow flowers. He listened, his blue eyes grave and unwavering on my face. You said she was dressed in a black top, pink shorts, and had 2 blonde braids. She was gathering yellow flowers. His smile was suddenly confused. Yes, that's why she was leaning over the ledge, trying to get the flowers, I suppose. He stood up, a strange smile on his lips. I knew that sounded somewhat familiar when you first mentioned it. That situation was similar to the girl who fell a few months ago at the beginning of the summer season. Her name was Ellie Corbett. Do you know that's my maiden name, guys, Corbett? She was 7, was dressed in a dark top and bright pink shorts, and had long blonde braids. She'd gotten away from her parents when they weren't looking, and reaching over the ledge to pick some flowers, lost her balance and fell. But that wasn't in late April. She was found with the yellow flowers still clutched in her hand, about 200 feet down. Died instantly, thank God. Same spot where you were at. Found with yellow flowers still clenched in her hands. What are you sorry about? The cricket is trying out for gas. Don't apologize, Ellen, man. You know I love reading the chat when you guys are funny. I stared at him, knowing in my heart that Ellie, as impossible as it seemed, was the child I'd seen fall the day before, without doubt. As the ranger was leaving, he confessed, "Some people don't believe in ghosts, but I'm less of a skeptic. In this place," he looked around the room and out through the window, overlooking the grounds, and his voice dropped so low I had to struggle to hear, "There's bound to be plenty of them. Don't be hard on yourself. I've seen a few myself." He smiled then. "Go home, Mrs. Walters. If we find anything, I promise I'll call you and let you know, but I don't expect to." I thanked him and he left. Afterwards, I slipped out into the waning dark of a new coming dawn, and as hard as it was, I made my way to the spot where I'd seen the girl fall the day before. The first rays of the sun were creeping along the horizon, and I could see things fairly clearly. I thought I heard a child crying in the distance. Cautiously, I walked up to the rim, and my heart beating louder than my thoughts, my mouth dry as the desert, forced myself to look over. And there, in the last vestiges of the darkness, I could see all these remnants, for that's what I'd call them, wispy wreaths of left behind memories, hopes and dreams of human beings swirling around in the canyon. There had to be hundreds of them, men, women, children. By their clothes, hikers and climbers, prospectors and cowboys, settlers and Indians. They didn't take notice of me, all except for one small one, who slowly drifted upwards until she was about 15 feet below. She looked up and smiled softly at me. She held out a yellow flower, but I couldn't reach it and was too afraid to lean further out. I could see right through her. "Thank you for caring. Thank you for seeing me. Tell my mom and dad I'm all right. Please tell them I love them. Miss them. It wasn't their fault. I was being silly. That's all. That I'll always be here. Always remember them, but not to worry. I'm not alone. I'm not unhappy." For a moment she paused, looked around as if she wanted to be sure no one else was listening. "They say that in time I'll move on to a better place. I hope it's soon." Then she flew off with the others, and they disappeared as the sun rose above the canyon walls. At my feet, there was a yellow flower, and I stooped down to pick it up. I stumbled away from the edge, the flower in my hand, and walked back to the lodge. We returned to the cabin and finished out our vacation. We had a good time. We saw the red rocks of Sedona, and spent a lovely day in the town itself, going through the artist's village. We bought souvenirs and ate steaks in a local restaurant. Nothing more was said about what I thought I'd witnessed that day on the South Rim, and I never told anyone what I'd seen that last morning down in the canyon. That they really would have locked me away if I had. Sometimes, when I'm thinking about it, I don't even believe I saw what I saw. A flock of ghosts? Really? I told myself I might have been sleepwalking and dreamed the whole incident. Even the girl falling from the ledge. I, after all, do have a vivid imagination. That explanation worked for me. I love what you did to that painting of yours, my sister Miranda stated, staring at the picture above the fireplace I'd finally finished the day before. We've been home for a couple of weeks. It's kind of spooky, but I really like it. It's different, so whimsical, mesmerizing in fact, with all those churning muted colors. Ooh, I think you found your niche. Your artist's voice. Painting the supernatural. I know she wanted to say things she wasn't saying. No one, not Jeff or any one of my other brothers and sisters, had commented much on the painting of the horses galloping along an open canyon under a dawning sun, a canyon full of spectral creatures floating around. Ghosts, I guess you could call them. No one had said too much at all, either, about my other paintings and drawings of translucent creatures mingling among the living, or about the Ouija board in the corner of the living room, the deck of tarot cards on top of it, or the new books on spirits and ghosts that now filled my bookcase. They thought it was only a macabre new hobby of mine, and as most of my obsessions would pass. It wouldn't. I was a believer for life. Or death. Whatever. Thank you, sis. I like it too. I glanced at the painting and smiled at the small girl delicately brushed into the center of the ghostly horde. I'd written a letter to her parents and told them what she'd said to me, that she loved them, didn't blame them, and that she wasn't alone. They'd never replied, but I'd done my part. In the painting, the child's eyes were haunted with sadness, but deep within them was a glimmer of hope. Her figure, see-through, a child with a yellow flower in her hand. The end. That's it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night, wonderful day, wherever you are, okay? And Captain Lee is getting close. So excited for you. The crickets are saying goodbye.